Many times you need to compare two quantities and know how big or small one quantity is compared to the other quantity. You would normally do this by expressing these quantities as a ratio. So for example, if we have a problem like this that asks us to find the size of the population of women compared to the total population, here we are asked to compare the size of the women population compared to the total population. One way to have a good understanding of the population of women is by finding a ratio of the total population of women to the total population. And in this case, my quantity 1 is the population of women, and my quantity 2 is the total population. So we're comparing these two pieces, one part to the total. In another example, for this one, number 2, it says find out how much the price of oranges has increased this year compared to last year. Here we are comparing the increase in price this year compared to the price last year. One good way to get a sense of how much more expensive oranges are this year is to create a ratio of the increase in price this year to the prices last year. So we would have a ratio like this, the increase in price this year compared to the price last year. And in this case, our quantity 1 is the increase in price this year, and our quantity 2 is the price last year. Such ratios are best represented using percentages. A percentage is a number or a ratio written as a fraction of 100. So if I have a ratio of 2 to 10, for example, I know that I can write this as the fraction 2 over 10, which I know is 2/10, and could also be written as the decimal 0.2. But now to write 0.2 as a percent, you need to express it as a fraction which has a 100 in the denominator. So to do that with this 0.2, for example, let's look at how we can convert 0.2 to a fraction with a 100 in the denominator. One way that we can do it is to take our 0.2, which is our 2 to 10 ratio, or 2 over 10, 0.2, and if I multiply both the top and the bottom by 100, or I should say multiply by 100 and divide by 100, or I could say multiply by 100 over 100, which is the same as multiplying by 1. So it doesn't change the value, it changes the form of how I have this written. I can now convert this to a form where I have a 100 in the denominator. If it helps you, you can think of the 0.2 as being over 1, because any number that's not in fraction form can be written as a number over 1. So in my numerator, I now have 0.2 times 100, which is 20, and I have in my denominator 1 times 100, which is 100. So I now have converted 0.2 to a number that has a 100 in the denominator, and this still is the same value as this. It's just that I've changed it to a different form by multiplying by 100 over 100, or by the value of 1. Another way that I can look at this is I can come back to here where I had my 2 over 10. So I still have this ratio of 2 to 10, and I wrote it as the fraction 2 over 10. Now, looking at this fraction of 2 over 10, I could also ask myself, how could I convert this to a form that has a 100 in the denominator? Well, in the same way here as I multiplied by 100 over 100, if I multiply by 10 over 10, I now have in my denominator 10 times 10, which equals 100. So in the numerator, I have 2 times 10, 20. And in the denominator, I have 10 times 10, which is 100. And so you can see that both of these, this 0.2 that we had here, and our 2/10 here, both of them meaning a ratio of 2 to 10, we've converted both of these to a fraction with a 100 in the denominator. So now we have expressed both of these as 20 over 100. And now that we have a 100 in the denominator, we now can write this as a percentage. And what we do in this case is 20 over 100 is equal to 20, and then we put our percent symbol after that. And it looks like this. In the same case down here, we could rewrite this 20 over 100 as 20%. In both of these cases, we've converted this to a percentage. And this last character here, this percentage character, tells you that this number, 20, is not your regular number 20, but that it represents a number in percentage form, 20 over 100, when you see this percentage sign. And you need to put this character after every percentage number to indicate that we're not just looking at the number 20, we're looking at 20% or 20 over 100. Now that you know the basics, let's explore the topic in detail. Anytime that you see a percent, X percent, it represents a ratio of X to 100. This is also equal to X divided by 100. Let's take a look at a visual example. So on the board here, I have 100 total shapes. I have squares and circles. Now, out of these 100 total shapes, let's count how many of them are circles. I'll give you a little hint here that I have this in rows and columns of 10. So we can count that we have 10 circles, 20 circles, and then this third column here is not all circles. I have 2 squares here at the bottom. So we have 8 circles. So I have a total out of all these 100 shapes, I have a total of 28 circles, and then 2 plus 7 more rows, so 72 of these shapes are squares. So what we want to look at right now, though, is we want to focus in on the circles. And out of the 100 shapes, 28 of them are circles. And so what we're going to compare is the total number of circles to the total number of shapes in our set. And so if we are going to write this as a ratio to compare those two values, I would write 28 as my first quantity of my ratio. That's the total number of circles. And then I'm going to put my ratio symbol, and I'm going to put 100 afterwards. I'm comparing the number of circles, 28, to the total number of shapes that I have here in my set, which is 100. So quantity 1, total number of circles. Quantity 2, total number of shapes. So the ratio of circles to total number is 28 to 100. Since percent is always looking for the denominator to be 100, and we know that we can take our ratio of 28 to 100 and rewrite it as a fraction, so this is equal to 28 over 100, And we know that our percent is always looking for the denominator to be 100. We already know the percentage for this ratio. It's already given to us in the form of a number over 100. 28 over 100. So I can rewrite this 28 over 100 just simply as the number 28 and then put my percentage symbol right after it. And this is how I would report and write 28% of the shapes are circles.